Well, hello everyone. Working Vacation here, the internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. And it's time for a review. I know things look a little different right now, but you know what? Voila, here you go. It's just like what you're used to. No, really no different. I know the microphone may not be, your preference. There might be a little noise here and there, but believe me, this is way better than the traffic noise outside. All right, but let's talk about this new Rae Sremmurd record, Sremm for Life. Southern hip-hop duo Rae Sremmurd, Swae Lee, and Slim Jimmy, they're back, here with their fourth full-length LP, Sremm for Life. It's been almost 10 years since these two broke onto the scene with singles like No Type as well as No Flex Zone, and they're usually good for at least a few bangers every album cycle and have consistently proven that they have a nice working dynamic as a duo, good chemistry. They play off of each other's vibes very well between Swae Lee's kind of boyish and mostly melodic delivery and Jimmy's more straightforward rap flows. Now, the last full-length LP these two put out was kind of a doozy. It was a three-parter of sorts with Swae and Jimmy, each respectively doing their own records, and then one additional one where they're coming together. It totaled up to 27 tracks and an hour and 45 minutes or so. Now, the disc from this project they collaborated on, in my opinion, is actually their best. Really wild, eccentric, woozy trap, backed by bassy and psychedelic beats, really intoxicating vibes all around. Buckets and 42 and Power Glide. There's some serious bangers on this thing, which still hold up 5 years later, in my opinion. Now, it was on the other two solo discs of this project where things kind of fell apart. I mean, what can I say? I think these two work best as a unit and complement each other, which is one of a few things that had me looking forward to Sremm for Life, because we're getting a formal project here of a standard track length. It's Swae, it's Jimmy, together, but somehow this thing ended up being their most forgettable and throwaway project to date, and I'm devastated to even say that. So what's the deal? Why is this the case? I would say it's a handful of things. Shamefully corny bars, bland production choices, allowing their hook game to completely go to shit, as Rae Sremmurd usually knows their way around a chorus. Plus, there's a lot of weird mixes on this project that just leave the song sounding really hollow and washed out. Really no punch to the production or the vocals. Take the song Not So Bad, for example, a track whose flaws I could really tear apart all day. The plain perks and artificial pianos assemble into one of the most drill instrumentals I've ever heard. But interestingly, these elements serve as the foundation for an interpolation of Dido's Thank You. Lean's gone cold, I'm wondering why. Lean is gone cold. I mean, I get that the chorus is trying to make a statement of depression and ennui, just a lack of interest here and just feeling very dejected. But it sounds like Swae Lee is complaining about the temperature of the lean, which is supposed to be served cold, unless recently he's taken to enjoying it warm like a cup of sleepy time tea. What's worse is the singing on the track sounds like AI generated and fed through Motorola flip phone and then just washed out with all these dreamy effects. The verses are similarly unmemorable and toothless and just kind of feel like they're killing time until we actually get to a hook. This thing is a mess of terrible execution stacked on top of really bad ideas. Then there's the song Sexy, which I know it's really hot and popular right now to just kind of throw things back to the earliest days of hip hop. Take Coi Leray's Players, for example, which obviously is built off the classic instrumental to Grandmaster Flash's The Message. But yeah, this track Sexy feels like the worst interpretation of an old school hip hop and dance fusion cut. It's kind of like Vanilla Ice, but way worse. Especially when you consider bars on the track about looking like you killed Chewbacca or a Yeti because of this fur coat you're wearing. Not the animal cruelty toward fictional beasts. There's also the closer ADHD Anthem, which is an attempt at a big tuneful mellow rap cut with some fuzzy synth arpeggios looping through the beat. I think the track does try to be a comment of some sort on having ADHD, but it doesn't really dig too deep into it or get to the core of anything outside of talking about being emotionally overwhelmed in some form or fashion. All in all, the track just sounds like a bad Juice WRLD knockoff. And I can't help but laugh when Jimmy gets super melodramatic on bars where he's talking about not being able to feel his heart beat in his chest. Call the cardiologist. Okay. Just make sure he's in your insurance network, Jimmy. There's Mississippi Slide, too, which is strangely another washed out song. It's like the old days of cloud rap are coming back or something, but somehow worse and less creative. Not to mention we get one of the clunkiest choruses on the entire LP, too, where we're spelling out Mississippi. M-I-S-S-I-P. PPSSPPI. Also, can't forget about this poop bar from Jimmy, as well as this other one about looking disabled because he's popping his leg. What's even worse is the hook on the song YMCA. It's perplexing how long and boring the hook on this track is. It kind of just sounds like a throwaway verse that they repeat for some reason. The basic trap beat and spooky synthesizers aren't really much to write home about either. Now, the lyricism obviously is not really the draw on a Rae Sremmurd project. Really, it's best not to overanalyze anything they're saying, but the bars on this thing consistently are so bad, they're impossible to ignore. There's flaunt it / cheap in this one with its old school breaks and really hypnotic beat switch in the second half. It's kind of the definition of wasted production, as both Sway and Jimmy for the entire track fail to sing or rap anything worth remembering, at least for good reasons anyway. I got the swag flu, this a haiku, which, I mean, sadly, it's not. I really like the production on Torpedo too. It's like a perfect encapsulation of that psych trap sound that made records like Rodeo and Astroworld so great. But man, some of the writing on this thing is so terrible, I don't even know where to start. I'll be done in a minute. I'm testing her fish? Jesus Christ, that's gross. Broke the record like Ripley, which I think he means Guinness. Guinness is the one with the book of records. Also, she gotta suck my soul, which... is it even head if you don't feel like your spirit's being deep-throated? Yeah, the writing on this thing is pretty dismal. Even Future himself doesn't feel like trying all that hard on the song Activate, where he pretty much rhymes the word activated with activated half a dozen times. So yeah, the lows on this thing are pretty low, but maybe the worst moments are the ones that breeze by without leaving much of an impression at all. Be that Diamonds Dancing, Something I'm Not, or the snooze-inducing opener. Literally the first track on this thing is a bore. Now, to be fair, there were at least a few highlights in the track list. Pump That TANISHA, which I don't think is amazing, but compared to everything else here, it is a solid dance cut with some sticky refrains. Then there's also Royal Flush with Young Thug, which I thought was kind of a banger, though I think a lot of the appeal on this one does come down to the sick horn loop laced into the instrumental and also Thugger's performance, because it's certainly not Jimmy throwing out another poop bar, that's for sure. Again, overall, this thing was disappointing, very disappointing, especially considering how good the first disc of their last album was. It just kind of seems like without a complementary wave or trend to hop on, Rae Sremmurd sound like fish out of water. Because the track list on this thing is just loaded with awful, harebrained ideas, stale cloud rap vibes, dime a dozen trapisms, and also a truly terrible drill crossover. This one is rough. It is the most terrible Rae Sremmurd project yet. I am feeling a light 2 on it. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well over here next to my head. It's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Rae Sremmurd, forever.